Hi, it's Paula, and this is the Common Book Show, and we got a big crowd today, boy. Okay, of course we have Richard, who is always here, and then of course we have James, who is mostly here, and then we have Joni, who is never here, mystery guest who has been coming more, which I like. We have something resembling a candy corn that we're not even going to talk about that. We have Brian, and then we have my son Tom on drums. And I am here today. I'm still reading the same book, and I'm not getting anything good to talk about with that. But we did see the Barbie movie. And the Barbie movie I thought was for kids. Greg was the one who wanted to see it. And I was surprised. But we went. Oh, and the Regal Theaters on Tuesday, they have half-price movies and half-price snacks. That's the best deal in town. So that's where you should go and when you should go. But don't go to
I thought they were
ours.
going out of business, Regal.
I don't know. Don't go to our show because I want space in my show. So anyway, the Barbie movie was charming, and it had a lot of messages, but all the messages were funny. They were light. They were very digestible. It was about equality, the equality of the sexes, and it talked about both women's empowerment. It talked about men, and it kind of a little bit made fun of men, but the writing was excellent in this, and it was very colorful, very easy on the eyes, and for people like me who grew up with Barbie dolls, there were a lot of like inside jokes about the life of Barbie.
Her feet.
The feet, that was really funny.
When she took her foot out of the
first
shoe,
took
her foot was still like that.
her slipper. She took her slipper off, and her foot was still standing.
Because
up.
all the shoes were like that.
And then what she said, and this you'd miss this if you she said then her foot got flat. This is when she started becoming real. And then she put the shoes back on, and she says, if my feet were really shaped like this, I would never wear these goddamn things. You know? And I'm thinking, I'm with you, sister. So I bonded with Barbie during this movie, and there were a couple really, really delicious moments when, every woman has had this experience of being heckled by construction workers. I don't care who you are. You've walked by a construction site and somebody said something to you, either mean or what they thought was nice. Like, let me just put it this way: nice ass is not a compliment. It's demeaning. You don't. If you say nice ass to someone, you're saying that's your only attribute. Nice ass. So anyway, guys out there, take note. But so they're kind of heckling her, and she just walks up to them and she says, I have no vagina. and then she points to Ken and she says, and he has
no penis.
No penis. He said penis, and he has no penis. And then they just walked away, and it was
Ryan Gosling plays the part of
yes,
yeah.
And so it was really, really excellent. Richard, when I mentioned that I saw the movie, you said you'd read something about it. Written by some smart guy.
Can I talk about Professor Zizek's critique?
Zizek's? Yes, you can.
Okay. After being expelled from the utopian Barbie land for being less than perfect dolls, Barbie and Ken embark on a journey of self-discovery to the real world. But what they find there is not some deep revelation of the self, but the realization that the actual life is even more riddled with suffocating cliches than their own fantasy world.
True.
The doll couple are forced to confront the fact that there is a brutal reality beyond Barbie Land, and that without fantasies like Barbie Land, individuals would simply not be able to endure the real world. But that brings up a deeper truth. We do not only escape into fantasy to avoid confronting reality, we also escape into reality to avoid the devastating truth about the futility of our fantasies.
Yeah. That's pretty
That's a
good.
brilliant insight.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
That's very good.
I there's a couple things I have to comment on with that. First of all, this Barbie did not like this Ken. They were not really a couple. She kept rejecting him, and he kept chasing her, and he had no. It was kind of like a role reversal, because he had in it's a very cliched notion that in a relationship a woman is all about this relationship, and without the relationship she's not whole. So it's a cliche, and it's a societal thing. But in this movie it was reversed, and Ken needed that relationship to feel whole. He didn't know who he was without Barbie, because of course Ken was an adjunct to Barbie. Barbie was invented first, and Ken was invented as her boyfriend, and that was his only role. And so,
But in reality, there's a lot of men that feel like that, though.
I was going to say that same thing.
That the woman is like they're not whole without their woman.
well, I mean, I don't mean whole in the sense of having a meaningful partnership where there's two sides. I mean in the really
Okay.
kind of a unhealthy way of having no self and only having the relationship that makes you into a person.
So that would mean that if a woman's a spinster, that's a harsh thing to say under this way of thinking.
Well, but the thing is, it depends on the woman. I mean, a lot of a lot of women are raised to think their role in life is to be a wife and a mother. You know, this is in the past when I was young. Now it's not so much like that, but that's a cliche. But was I don't know. Are there men who don't men generally define themselves by their occupation or by their passion? Like, let's say you're a banker, but you really like to paint.
No, people define them that way.
But okay, so then, James, how do you define yourself?
Well, I define myself simply as a person. However, without having a family relationship, you are considered to either be a unsuccessful man, a loser, or someone who is immature and never grew up.
See, as a woman, I've never seen it that way. As a woman, for me, a bachelor is somebody, it's a cool guy, where a spinster, as Richard said, is a loser woman. So there's a double standard.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, your parents and your grandparents are going to say that you're immature. When are you going to grow up, settle down, and have a family?
That's right, and that's what parents are for, to make you feel guilty.
But my point is, you could be Howard Hughes, and people would still say, why haven't you gotten married? Whereas if you have a woman who is, say, Oprah Winfrey.
But don't you think that they'd say, hey, you didn't let any woman get a hold of you. You know, you're free and easy, and you're able to go out there and explore and
No.
have all kinds of women.
The corporate culture will tell you you cannot get promoted if you don't get married.
Is that true? Does anyone else have any insight into
Got to
that?
be a family man.
I don't know. Depends on the corporation,
Yeah, I guess.
I think.
I have always, and I mean, this is an interesting point, because from my perspective, I have always viewed the idea of a single man as something that is acceptable in any society, whereas a single woman is considered somebody who just hasn't been able to marry somebody, you know.
It's interesting. I have a poem in the book that has to do with that. Only has to do with. I saw this documentary, and I wrote this poem based on what I saw in the documentary that kind of made me think, oh, you know, women are the dominant species with cats, the big cats.
Yeah.
And that's what, can I read it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Please.
Women are
This-
the dominant species with cats.
The female cat.
The female lionesses, for
Let me,
Female
yeah,
women.
example,
I'll just
I
read
see.
it. It's,
Yeah.
it's not very long. Thoughts while viewing the documentary My Name is Malika. And Angela Bassett was the narrator. She was wonderful. The African woman is a lioness, reminding me of the amazing mother lions in the wild. While the male lion yawns and scouts the perimeter for predators, the African lioness, along with the aunties, stays alert, keeping the babies together. She is the one who hunts for the family. She knows instinctively that they will be the ones to protect the future of the pride. The lioness breathes in courage and exhales fear. She may fall, but she rises with more determination than before. She turns her wounds into wisdom, because only the strong of heart have the most scars. She is the queen. Of course she wants her beloved partner, the king, but only if he pleases her. She allows him liberties that he takes because he is male and feels entitled. But this lioness, she knows in all her glory that she's the one who truly rules the kingdom.
So do you agree with that sort of, from everything I've talked to you about, that the woman has that control of the situation?
Well, certainly the way we do relationships in the United States.
Well, I don't want to go back to a third world. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just making the point that, generally speaking, the woman decides whether or not you go on a first date, which is the first hurdle you have to.
Well,
And she's also the one who says yes or no when you
Right.
say, Paula, I want to marry you. And
Hey, Paula.
without that, she marries some jerk named Greg. But
no, Greg, you have told me that
Or Mr. Candy Cone.
you have told me that the woman picks too. You that was something that we had a discussion about that.
Oh, totally. Woman definitely picks because the only time the man picks in
God
American
bless you, son.
society, only time
Is produce. Men pick better vegetables.
Oh, that's bullshit.
the only time the men pick, and it doesn't happen all the time with these people either, is they're powerful, they're rich, or they're famous. Then they sometimes pick. But if you're just a guy who's not powerful, rich, or famous, the woman picks.
the point is, something that women
Yeah.
don't seem to acknowledge is that women get to pick the men that they want. Men have to pick from the women who've already picked them, which is a whole different
That's interesting.
situation.
Well, in my
dynamic.
dating relationships, I never went after a man. But I would, of course, like you say, I'd either accept or reject the ones that would come to me. I would never have made that. I would have been too, not timid. The word isn't timid. Embarrassed.
you.
Well, afraid of rejection. That's what I would have been. And
Paula?
I know men have to do that all the time.
Paula,
Yeah.
what's a woman's pickup line?
Hi.
Exactly.
except I.
Nice.
Except
Right, because
I never made that. I never made except in my relationship with Greg, because I saw something in him I hadn't
obnoxious
seen.
assholeness.
Exactly. That's what
You
I
hadn't, seen that,
wanted.
you hadn't seen that before? I was the first one to be an
No,
obnoxious asshole
no.
man?
I saw we bonded, and I had a hard time with that. So
Right.
I did pick you, and then you were smart enough to pick me back eventually.
Right.
But the thing
grew
is,
into it.
you grew into it.
Grew into her. Okay.
But yeah, so
But generally, all things being equal, you're going to have the woman and the guy. The guy wants to have sex, and the woman is deciding, okay, I'm going to have sex with you. The guy can't say, okay, I like this woman the way she looks. I'm going to say we're having sex, and she's going to say yes. But the woman can go to the same bar, and she can go to the guy and say, let's go have sex, and then immediately they're having sex. Like 1 second later, after high. hi, I want to have sex with you. Let's go let's go outside. Let's go to the car. Let's go to my house. Let's go to the hotel. The guy generally cannot just say, hi, I want to have sex. Let's go get in my car. Get it,
But there are guys that do that. And
Yeah,
they,
but
they
how-
call
Only
it
with pre.
they call it throw the shit.
Yeah, I
against
know
the
they
wall.
throw shit against the wall, but basically you can't do that, and it just doesn't. I mean, yeah, I know they keep asking over and over and over and over every.
Some guys don't
Right.
need to because they have
Yeah, of
a
course.
perception of power
Yeah, some-
or charm or
some people
charisma.
have
Right,
And
but I'm saying generally,
Stop it.
if you don't count the throw it against the wall until it sticks, people, you got to have really good confidence, charm, and charisma, or be rich, powerful, or famous. But if you're just a regular guy, you have to have charm, charisma, and confidence to the max to be able to do that, with not have to not throw your shit against the wall over and over and over, saying you want to fuck me, you want to fuck me, you want to fuck me. So men are in a bad situation where they want to have sex with a woman in a bar, and they can't just say, let's just do it. But women can.
I know,
Women
it's
can generally say, I want to have sex with you, and the guys can say, okay, let's go.
And as a candy corn, that's so sexy.
Well, I mean, I'm just stating the truth.
All right.
It's a
Candy
bad
corn.
situation for men.
It's a bad situation. Well, I don't know.
No, because they're the super horny ones
right,
generally.
Right,
And
they're the ones.
they're
Because I
the
was
ones
gonna
who
say,
can't.
women
just,
don't generally. They do sometimes, but they don't generally just walk up to someone and say, "I want to have sex with you."
right, but the
That
guys
does not
guys
happen.
Unless the
are
guy
generally
has
the super.
pre-selection.
It's happened to me a few times, but yeah.
They're generally just.
Is that true, Brian?
I think.
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
I think that's
They
societal.
In my-
just some stranger, just some strange
In my
woman?
20s in a bar, and she was really drunk, and it was 4 a.m, and she said, "You want to come back to my place to have sex with me?" And I was like 23. Yeah, okay.
Wow. Yeah. No, I didn't. But maybe that was the alcohol. But the thing, not that you're not a catch, Brian. I didn't mean it like that. But
When I was 23, I was.
yeah. Well, I know. Well, but I'm saying it's not a common occurrence like it is with men. You know.
No.
Well, that's
And
why.
I'm not one of those guys that'll just go up to a woman and go, "Hey, do you want to go?" You know, I never did that. And it's like, to me, those guys are like weak. Like, you know, you got to have some style,
Some class.
you know?
Well, like
Yeah. Not treat people like meat and, you know,
Unless
So-
they're coming on to you, then
Well, like-
I'll hold their.
well, yeah.
Well, like Mystery
No
got
holds
said
barred,
about having
yeah.
charm, charisma, and confidence. If you're the man, women don't have to have the charm, confidence, and charisma. They can just be pretty, and then, or not even pretty. They can just be a woman. So, but the charm, confidence, and charisma you have to have, because Bill Maher talks about that, about how men have to have game if they're not famous, rich, or powerful. They have to have game. Women don't have to have game. I want to fuck you. Okay, I'll go with you right now. Men have to have put on this whole show and have game and have confidence and charisma, buy drinks, buy dinners, da 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 da. Bend over backwards doing the Billy Crystal thing.
Well,
and
but
forget
that's why-
No, doing the Billy Crystal forget Paris thing.
Yeah.
I'll go to the ballet with you. I'll go to the classical music thing with you. I'll go to some fucking thrift store shop with, you know, and that's they do that. They'll do anything when they're courting.
about now?
Courting
How
means
about
I'm
now?
trying to get fucked.
How about
so
now?
therefore, I'll go to the volleyball game that you're playing in. The
Right,
women don't
but
have to do
that's
that. They don't
why-
have to say, "Oh,
right.
I'll go to your football."
That's why it makes so much sense for men to be gay.
Yeah, right. That's what Bill Maher said. Gay guys, I like fucking. You like fucking. They just fuck. And
Right.
Friends.
There's no-
relationships. There's no. They don't put any. They don't put on a little show. There's no laughter. There's no games. There's no.
Right.
I have game. You want to fuck? I want to fuck. You want to suck? You want to suck? Yeah. Okay.
Or
Let's
they
do
just
it.
go to the bathroom in a
Yeah.
state park.
Yeah.
I know.
And
That is so depressing and boring. I mean, you know, what about, as a woman, I think to myself, I would be bored by someone that wasn't a challenge. I would want them to be a challenge. I mean, it would be nice.
Why do you want life to be challenging?
I'm saying that it's sometimes boring to women that men are so easy.
Okay, but see, do you know why?
Or men could be easy.
Do you know why that is ridiculous to a man's mind?
Why?
Because his entire life is challenging. The place he doesn't want to challenge is at home.
I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Good point, James.
Good point.
Finally, you came up with a good point.
I finally got a word in edgewise.
Well,
Oh.
that's true too.
All right, so we really, I don't know how we got from the Barbie movie onto this
Well,
discussion.
because
Well,
Richard
on
read
sexual
intellectual
stereotypes.
thing
Sexual
on the
stereotypes.
internet.
So I guess I said something about something that was
Well-
they were not a pair bond.
Right.
She didn't really like him, but the
Why are they kicked out of Doll Land?
they're not kicked out. She starts to become a real
With flat feet.
person, and she goes to see the crazy doll. There's a crazy doll who some kid had cut her hair and painted on her face, and so she was like the wise kind of guru kind of doll, and she told her about reality land and how to get there.
So they voluntarily left.
She said she had to find the child. No, she said she had to find the child that was playing with her because that child was making her turn real. And so it turned out that there wasn't a child playing with her. It was the mother of a child whose daughter was a tween, and she had kind of there was a separation of affection between the mother and the daughter. So the mother started playing with the doll, and she was making up things like death. What was the death obsessed Barbie? You know, she came up with this idea of death obsessed Barbie, and that was
That made Barbie be obsessed with death. Because
right.
She was,
Barbie was being messed with
What
psychologically.
kind of movie is this? This
Yeah.
isn't for
Smart.
children.
No,
No,
it's
it's
not
for
for
adults.
children. So death obsessed Barbie, she started thinking about death. She even blurted out while she was in Doll Land, and all the dolls would look at her like, "What are you talking about?" And so she had to go back and find that child and get that child to be happy again in order for her to go back and be a regular Barbie, which she thought she wanted to do. But in the end, she decides to go back to reality. But it follows, it roughly follows the path of the Buddha, because these dolls don't know anything about reality, and then she goes into reality and finds out about it, like the Buddha. So
That's heavy, man.
they used that very loosely, very
That
loosely.
sounds interesting.
it's like the Matrix too.
And it was really I would recommend it. I think it was a really well done movie. It's
See,
just-
my initial reaction to when I heard about it was this is probably very shallow.
That's what I thought too.
And that I'm ashamed of myself because that's not like me to be uncritical in my thinking. I mean, I should be more open-minded and listening
Yeah.
to what you're saying
Yeah.
about it. It sounds like it has more depth
But
than
I thought
anticipated.
I thought it was a kids movie. So
I know,
I mean,
Yeah.
so did I.
and I didn't read anything about
Well,
it.
I
'Cause-
told you that I want to
Yeah.
see because of Greg Gerwig and
right.
Yeah. Another thing, this is kind of going backwards a little bit, but what we were saying about stereotypes for women, and we were talking about how there are men who feel that they are not complete with a marriage, or a woman in society looks down. Franz Kafka's work was founded entirely on that concept of guilt, because his father was a provider. He had a stable marriage. He had children. And he always told Franz, "You're never going to amount to anything. Get married. You're no good." And he could he could never form a bond, a really meaningful bond,
he
a
was an
permanent
odd
bond.
guy.
he may have been. But I think all of the guilt and this massive bureaucracy that he's dealing with in his novels like The Trial and The Metamorphosis, it's his father. And his father is saying, "You are not a mensch. You are not a real man
Wow.
because you didn't get married."
I
And
didn't
that's
know
why he
that.
wanted to burn his books, because to him, people said, "You're one of the greatest novelists who ever lived. I would exchange all of that to be a man, to get married, to have children, to be like my
Wow.
father."
Now
That's to me, when I found out about that, his work, in my estimation, rose
well,
considerably.
I love his work, but the thing
Yeah,
is,
so
I
do
did
I.
not know that about
didn't either.
about his what
That was the core of the guilt.
right.
But mystery
Huh.
guest, do you feel badly that you're not married?
No, not
So
really.
You're not like
I
Franz
think
then.
no.
Okay.
I don't think I need to find meaning in another human being. You know, I
agree.
think it's great if you can find someone in your life with whom you have a meaningful, equal relationship where you grow together as equal partners.
Two-
But that's
yeah.
very hard to find.
So it's, yeah.
And some of it is luck too, right?
Two wholes and not two halves.
That's very well said.
Must come together.
Very beautifully stated.
There is, yeah, because if you are a half, you will never be complete
Yeah.
with another person. You have to be complete before you get into the relationship.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep, I agree too.
So
Yeah.
that's where.
I also
that's-
agree.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
probably
you,
why
candy corn.
probably why a lot of relationships fail.
You're welcome.
You know,
It is.
because
I think
people
it
aren't
is.
whole within themselves. They're not fulfilled.
So what if you're
They
a
don't bring
whole
that.
and they're a half?
Then-
there's-
Is there a way to make that work?
No.
well, not unless you can. You
You have
can
to
talk.
have two holes.
You can talk them into being, getting their own interests and their own passions and desires and reality. I would say, mentor that person until they're ready.
Well, on the other hand, is anybody truly whole? I mean, everybody's
Oh yeah,
fucked
I'm
up,
whole.
right?
I'm whole.
I'm whole.
I'm whole. James said that earlier. I was whole.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm
He
not
said
fucked
I
up.
was a whole.
Yeah.
I'm
How do you
definitely-
define whole? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well,
I mean, I could live on my own without another human being in my life.
Definitely you could.
I
I see what you mean.
I have a lot of friends.
You don't need me.
I do need you, but not for that.
I mean, you don't need
Your
me to
days
do
are numbered, Sinead.
Oh, jeez.
You're losing your sweetness, candy corn.
No, I'm not.
I didn't need.
My name is Cupcake.
I
Brian.
wouldn't.
Cupcake.
I would have never.
Excusez-moi.
I would have never
okay.
cultivated another relationship in my life. I already had a relationship with Greg before we had.
But our friend Bob said about our life together. He said, "What is it? What is it? What
It's
is
a
it?
relationship.
What is it?"
Yeah. So I mean, we had a friendship already, and I wouldn't. Oh, are you kidding me? Sit at a table with somebody and eat spaghetti and talk to them about their, what they. I mean, the chances of running into somebody that would have satisfied that part of, what would have been as interesting to. I've dated a lot of losers, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, there's the good fortune. I said, it's luck too.
It
Meeting
was,
somebody
it was luck.
that you
I
have
think
that
your
much in
I think
common
your
with.
relationship with Greg is based a lot on your creative endeavors
Well, yeah,
together.
I thought you were going to say sickness.
Kind of Lucas and Spielberg,
Yeah. Well, no, we definitely became friends because of that. That was.
We're like John and Yoko, but we're John and John.
Yeah, Yoko's not in the picture.
Ross and Gwen was about emotional and physical dissatisfaction with the marriage.
We've made a lot of films where none of the characters are likable.
Yeah, like the one with James
failure.
playing Morning Wood.
Yeah.
That was
None
totally
of the
unlikable.
characters were likable. So
No, everyone in that
I don't know
movie-
what that says about us, but that was
I think Al was a lot less likable than Morningwood.
Al.
Yeah, he was worse.
Al,
You're right.
Al, I told you, was based on my friend Al, and it was just like that actually.
And girls love guys like Al.
They do for a short period of time.
That's all Al needs. But see, this is one of the things, okay? Women could have a whole lot more satisfying relationship life if they would ditch this idea that a guy must be fascinatingly interesting and exciting up front, while they say to the guys that they know very well, I wouldn't want to ruin the friendship.
I had somebody say
Good
that to
point.
me one time. No, anyway, that is a very good point because the guys, and now this is a theory of mine, and I don't know where I got it from. I probably stole it from somewhere. But the thing is, those people that we find immediately, and we want that person immediately, those are the people that are the worst person for you because what it's saying is the way I'm fucked up and the way you're fucked up is going to evenly align. And you're going to make my life a living hell. And that's what I'm looking for.
Because it's exciting.
But it's not what you... So you're right about that.
Yeah, that's all the
you are
three
right.
loves of my life.
Yeah, you are right about that. If a woman would take a
Right
step
again.
back and try to examine why they're picking the men they are, they would value their friendships more, and that those men would become more likely to be their relationship.
Somebody in a bad relationship like that described the other person as like cocaine to them.
Yes.
Like, I can't stay away from this person. I keep going back. It's that addictive. It's that
It's-
excitement
it's-
that you talked
It's
about.
excitement, but
Right.
it also is fulfilling the expectations. If you come from a bad family, if your father was like that, or for a
Yeah.
woman, or if she felt unworthy, she's looking for that man who's going to make her feel unworthy.
Yeah.
She's looking for
My
that. man.
father had that. His
well,
mother made him feel like shit. Then my mother made him feel like shit. So he liked her. Then my stepmother made him feel like shit, and she was exactly like my grandmother.
Yeah, your father
To a T.
made the mistake 3 times in a row, and he never
Well,
learned
twice.
his lesson.
His mother wasn't his mistake.
Well, no,
That-
that's true. But,
the
twice,
the
yeah.
two wives were both chips off the old
just
block
like
of,
his mother.
of treating him like dirt
Yeah.
and demeaning him.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was a recognizable.
Sorry, I'm out the door.
Yeah.
50 ways to leave your lover.
All right. So we've I think okay. Let's move on to something. I don't have anything else right now. Do you? I know you have a list, Richard.
How about a cartoon? Greg, is that okay with you?
Yeah, cartoons are fun. Where's it from?
Can't remember.
Okay.
What's this cartoon trying to say?
Wow.
So far, I've come up with 3 interpretations.
I will tell you what it. Okay.
That's something.
A woman, a woman that looked. Well, I don't know. Women have a tendency to have bad self-images, but the first thing that popped into my head when I saw that is that. See, if she really looked like that, would she see that in the mirror?
No, she wouldn't.
That's kind of where. But do we think we look worse than we look?
We think we look worse.
All right, then.
As Mr. Walker, when he evaluated the cartoon, he said so beautifully, there's a saying, I wish I was as fat
As I
when the
was.
first time I thought to myself, I look fat.
Yes.
Exactly.
Do you know that's what I used to say?
Yeah.
My aunt Helen.
I always
okay,
felt fat, even when I wasn't.
Yeah, my Aunt Helen was not an attractive woman, and even when she was younger, I've got pictures of her. She was a snappy dresser. She really was. She was very classy, but she was not an attractive woman. But the older my Aunt Helen got, the more beautiful she became as a young woman, because she'd look back at the pictures and she'd look at herself in the mirror and she'd say, "Wow, I was really hot," And that's what happens. You become more beautiful as a young person as you get older.
Well, I've talked to many, many women over the years, as you know, and a lot of them have said to me, God, I didn't realize how beautiful I was when I was 24. I used to think I was ugly
Right.
or plain
Yeah.
or not that beautiful. And now I look back and if I had known, I would have had a much better self-confidence rate about my
Yeah.
appearance
Yeah.
40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Because we're all measuring ourselves up against the media depictions of women.
Which is why Margot Robbie should have been. That's the only problem with casting Margot Robbie, and they even have Helen Mirren talk about it. They should have cast someone less Margot Robbie-ish,
Except
Yeah.
that she was supposed to be Barbie.
but still.
So
I mean,
you-
if you really
She
want to
looks
push
like
the
Barbie.
envelope, it should have been maybe Rhea Perlman playing.
Oh,
Barbie.
yeah.
Well, she's in the movie. I'm saying.
No, I
because
know. But
switch-
the thing is, for women, we're measuring ourselves by a yardstick
Standard.
that should not be imposed on us, and it has a lot to do with media. And I've told this story before on the show. When I went to lunch when I was working at an advertising agency in New York, I went to lunch with this photographer, and he told me. And now this is before computer generated anything. This is when you still did airbrushing. He told me, he said, when you see a naked woman in a magazine ad, not in the kind of magazines where you're used to seeing naked women, but let's say it's a Nivea cream, had an ad, and there was a beautiful woman, and she had her arms up like this, and she had her body twisted. He said, that's 3 women. He said, we use the arms of one woman.
Oh, yeah.
We used the head of another woman.
Mm-hmm.
We used the torso of another woman, maybe 4, then the legs. We pieced together 4 women to get this beautiful, perfect woman. And he said, and you can't look at an ad like this and think that
it's
this
real.
is real.
No.
And the same thing with, he told me, he said, I've done ads, not ads, I've done layouts for Penthouse. And and we had famous women, he said, and I won't tell you who. He said, we took gaffer's tape and we taped up their breasts.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like their breasts were perky. He said, and we airbrushed it out.
Oh yeah.
He said, and that's the only way they'd let us photograph
Oh,
them,
yeah.
is if we made them look perfect.
What we
And I thought to myself, all this time, I've been beating myself up that I don't look like this,
yeah,
and
no,
it's not
it's
even
all
a real
airbrushing.
person.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? One of the we were getting back to talking about movies. I was telling you I went to see the Indiana Jones movie. I have loved Harrison Ford since 1981, and he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And before that, when he was in Star Wars, I thought he was hot. You know, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're close. Okay.
Anyway, what I liked about him in this movie is he wanted to be old. He wanted to find a way to close out the series, the franchise of the Indiana Jones franchise. And he said he was glad to be old in this movie. He wanted to show the aging of Indiana. And I thought that was so honorable of him because, I mean, who wants to look old in a movie? But, I mean, he did want to. And I thought it made me respect him even more. And it made me love him even more. And I feel the same way about people like Paul McCartney, who's aged very well, I think.
Yeah.
I love him more than I loved him when I was 14
He
years
has
old.
fake colored hair though, Joni.
Huh?
He's not. He has dark.
No, he's
Dark.
gray. No, if you look, he's gray. A lot of pictures of him, he's all gray. I love him more. I don't care. That's one question I have maybe for you. Are you attracted to men that are your own age or a little older now, or are you still attracted to younger men?
I'm not attracted to really young men.
Me either.
I kind of think I like to mess with them. I like to say things to scare them.
But what I'm saying is, I've noticed in myself, now that I'm older, I find older men attractive. Never used to. I said, "Oh God, he's old," But now I'm like,
Well, no,
"Oh,
because-
he's still got it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's still got it."
I mean, yeah. To get back to Greg. Greg's younger than me, but that wasn't what attracted
10
me to
years
him.
younger.
Right.
9.5.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson.
But it wasn't the fact.
Jesus
it wasn't.
loves you, Paula,
it
more
wasn't.
than you
It
know.
wasn't the traditional. It wasn't the traditional. In fact, when he was when
Well, it can't be the traditional. He's hot and he's younger because I'm not hot.
You are, Greg. You're still hot.
Of course, I
Yeah,
always was, Joni.
But the
I was
thing,
just testing you.
The thing is, it was a friend. That connection. But I always had a rule: no more than 10 years younger, and no more than 10
Just
years
under the
older.
wire. If I was a year older, then it would have been
9.5. You just
if I
made
was-
it, baby.
If I was 7 months older,
100 if he's a doctor.
No, do you know how many
God.
times I could have married somebody with money and they would have
Besides
taken
you
care of
decided-
me? That's
married the
not.
poorest person alive.
Do you know why I didn't do that? Because I didn't want somebody to have that kind of control over
Well,
me.
you're-
Yeah.
I have never wanted that kind of.
You told me
Yeah.
you're an exception to the rule about
I am an
women.
exception.
Women go into relationships. They want to have a man who makes good money. You're one of the few who don't care about that.
I don't care about it.
You and Joni are
I don't
exceptions to
care.
the rule.
The man that I'm with now makes way less money than I do. Always has, but I still.
Yeah, you two are exceptions to the rule.
We were
though.
together 20 some years.
But don't you
know?
think you two are exceptions to the rule, Joni?
Yeah, we
Okay.
probably are.
Mr.
Yeah.
Walker, are
Probably.
they exceptions to the rule?
Definitely are.
What I would say is the exception to the rule is that the modern woman today wants to have the guy who has $1 million, is very, let me land.
Okay.
This is going to take a little bit longer than 5 seconds.
Okay.
The modern woman generally wants somebody who has $1 million, a six-pack abs, is on a cover of a magazine, is faithful only to her, and has no expectations of her whatsoever.
That's wrong for me.
She needs a
Wow.
reality check.
They're
Right.
that delusional. The point is, you are willing to say, I will love you, I might honor you, but there ain't no way I'm going to obey you.
Yeah. Well, I am. There's no obeying in a relationship, as far as I'm concerned. You're an individual person who has the
Who has
right.
autonomy.
And the thing is, yes, you can do whatever you want. There might be repercussions if I decided I wanted to do something that Greg did not feel I should do, you know, if I hurt myself, he could point his finger at me and say, "Look, I told you not to do that."
I tell you not to horseback ride anymore.
And I don't, and I
Jesus.
haven't. I haven't done that, and the reason I don't do that is because
dangerous.
I value.
It is dangerous.
Walking.
Well,
It
it is.
is.
It's not. It is dangerous for me. I have two
Become
hip
crippled.
replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even without that, yeah.
No, but I used to ride horses all the time before. That's. But anyway.
In Canada, I got kicked in the head by a stallion. I was riding on a
Oh.
mare who was in
Oh.
heat,
Oh.
and nobody knew that the stallion was out in the pasture, and he was trying to, make time with her, and she didn't want anything to do with him, and she reared up and kicked her hoofs at him, and he reared up and glancing blow struck me in the head, knocked me off her.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, well, I never had anything like that happen, but
And I landed on a jagged tree stump. They had cut some trees down, and like if I hadn't been 12 years old, my spine probably would have snapped.
oh God, that's a horrible story. Yeah. No.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
I-
My uncle felt stupid because he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that stallion was out there and she's in heat." I'm like, "Really?" Even at 12, I was like, "Oh, you just forgot? I almost died."
Yeah. Well, that's
You know,
unfortunate, but that was one of my favorite things to do. But
Here are three interpretations of this cartoon.
All right, let's-
Okay.
One you brought up. Woman looks in the mirror, and the reflection magnifies the imperfections in her mind.
okay.
Okay. Number two, the woman looks in a mirror, and she sees all the other women she knows who judge her for the way she looks.
And are sticking their finger at her.
Yeah, that they're
Right.
resentful of the fact that
Right.
she is
The epitome
yeah.
of
Yeah.
beauty.
Right.
And interpretation number three is the woman looks in the mirror, she sees herself 20 years in the future being
defying it.
resentful to her in the past.
Oh, now
Oh.
that's an interesting. Yeah, you know what? Because, but I don't know if you may feel cheated that you didn't know. You know that you were cute when you were cute, but I don't know if you'd feel resentful of that of yourself like that. But I think it's probably.
I think it's defiance.
I think it's
It's like a form of defiance.
I think it's that beautiful woman who has bad self-esteem, and the bad self-esteem is giving her the finger in the mirror. You know, like fuck you. You're not all that. You know.
There's another interpretation. That reflection in the mirror is a reflection of her inner self. She tends to judge other people for their appearance, so she therefore assumes, wrongly, that others judge her for her appearance and are envious because she is by nature envious.
Yeah, but I think
Right.
women are.
I agree with Paula.
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be good for your psychology class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women are.
Projection.
Women are. We're kind of in a situation because young women, with. There's always this competition. If you're with a man and he's a normal, regular man, who is subject to failing as a partner, you're scared when a beautiful woman comes because you see his reaction to that woman, and so therefore there's jealousy because you don't. It's not because you don't trust her, it's because you know what he's thinking,
Right.
and so there's a lot of that, and I think. Growing older, that's one of my favorite things now is that I have more women friends because that tension isn't there anymore. So
Competition diminishes as you get older.
it
Yeah.
does because first of all you realize you're not in that stage anymore.
They also say that women, of a certain age, whatever that is, become invisible. I'm comfortable with that.
I love being invisible.
I love it.
I love being able to
I don't
walk
want-
down the street and not have people say things or
I love
make
it.
noises.
It doesn't, it's like a form of freedom.
Yeah. What do you?
know.
What is a? That's what. What does a man think is going to happen if he makes a sucky noise or like a grunt when a woman walks by? That you're going to turn around and say,
Oh,
"Oh
I'm
my God,
yours."
I've never heard anyone grunt like that before. Be still my heart," But I think think I said this on the show before too. I did see a woman do something once. She must have been in a really bad mood. You know, like she had a bad day, and some man said something like really sleazy to her on the corner of. That's when I lived in Jackson Heights, on the corner of where the train left off on I think it was 97th or something. He said something to her when she walked off the train. She laid down on the ground, threw her legs up in the spread eagle position. I mean, she had pants on. She says, "Come on, you want it? Take me now. Come on, let's do it." And the guy was
Where was this?
freaked out in New York, in Queens,
Okay.
where I lived in Queens. And but she was like so angry. And I looked at her and I thought, you know, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen. You know, she just,
I think
Because
that's
you
cool.
thought he was going to jump on her?
well, he was scared of her. He thought she was nuts, which is great because, I
Yeah.
mean, if somebody thinks
Well,
you're
she
nuts.
might have been, though.
No, I think she was just sick of it. She was just sick of it. I mean, you get
Hey,
sick
Paula,
of
did you
it.
hear about what happened in Rome the last 5 years or so? The guys are so bad in Rome, especially in Italy, they'll just goose women, grab their ass,
Oh,
grab
yeah,
their
yeah,
breast,
that happens all the
walking
time.
down the street. And it was getting like to be really, really bad. Women couldn't even walk by themselves down the street. And so they actually passed another law about harassment or something, and the cops were arresting guys
Ha.
because the men literally thought they could just put their hand up a woman's skirt
Well, they
and do
could
whatever.
because they've been doing it
And-
for 100 years. You know,
Right,
it's like-
hundreds of years. Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. But and by the way, there were a few women in my life that like wanted to go to bed with me maybe, but I thought they were really crazy, and I was like, no.
Wow.
Like, or maybe they were diseased or maybe something, whatever. But so
Yeah. Well, I mean,
everybody, just because they wrote about me and said I was a slut on the bathroom wall in the women's room in the student union at Buff State, it's not true. No, that's a fact.
that's nice.
People came to me and a couple girls I knew were like, your name's all over the wall. And I'm like, oh, it must have been that chick I broke up with.
who is doing making? Is it one of us? Can you hear it like a
Crackling.
I hear it.
crackling?
I hear crackling.
I don't know who's crackling. Somebody's crackling.
Mr. Windsor, who is that? Oh, put your phone on the floor.
Is that it?
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
phones will do that.
Oh. Okay.
Huh.
All right. So, has anybody reading anything that they wanted to talk about? Blah blah blah. A mystery guest. Are you reading anything?
I'm still reading Marco Polo, and the more it's a long read. And I've got other things to do, and he doesn't. There's a lot of tall tales.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you have to sort the wheat from the chaff, and he gets an awful lot right. So he was clearly in all these places,
Yeah.
in Japan and India and China.
He definitely was.
But he makes up these crazy stories about cannibalism and tribes of people that
Right.
have the faces of dogs and they have tails.
But
When
is
was
he-
that,
is he
500 years
relaying-
ago?
Is he relaying stories he's heard from
No,
other
no.
people?
He's quite clear about the fact that these people with the faces of dogs and tails really exist, and there are unicorns.
Oh wow.
So,
yeah, I
so
don't remember
he
that
blends.
part. I've
where
forgotten
does reality begin and fantasy
See, 'cause
end, or vice versa?
That's like the historian Herodotus. Herodotus puts down a lot
Yeah.
of things as fact that was hearsay.
Yeah.
And he if he didn't see a lot of this stuff, he
Yeah.
would just talk to a lot of people and find out things, and they would tell him these tall tales, and he'd put them in his history. But he was the first historian, so he sort of
Yeah.
didn't know what he was doing.
Thucydides was the first one to cross-reference and check his facts and to try to be more accurate when he wrote about the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. But
Yeah, because he probably read Herodotus.
yeah, he saw the mistakes that he made, right?
Yeah. So,
But
right.
it's still a really important first-hand account.
I love that book.
And it does get a little repetitive though, because
It does.
he says the same things. These people were idolaters. They used paper money. They made lots of sugar, and they were subject to the Great Khan. He uses that phrase like 50 times,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
But there's
Yeah.
that repetition. I don't know if there were any great editors back then.
Well, yeah,
know.
good point.
But I do love that
Yeah,
book.
it is wonderful.
It's one of my favorites that,
Yeah.
from memory. That I don't remember exactly the details of the book, but I do remember loving it. I've read it twice.
Did you
So-
finish your? Was it Emily Bronte you were reading?
No,
or-
I
or-
read. No, I read the. What the heck was the name
Robinson
of?
Crusoe.
No, I'm reading Robinson Crusoe now. But
Right.
what was I reading before, Greg? What was the
Sense and
and
Sensibility?
No, it
No,
wasn't Sense and Sensibility.
that's Jane Austen, right?
It is
Yeah.
Jane. It's Jane Austen that I read, but I can't
Oh, it
remember.
was Jane Austen.
I don't
Pride and
remember.
Prejudice.
No,
I don't remember.
I don't remember
Okay.
what the name of the book was either. Because I don't have that kind of memory that carries me through all these things. But whatever, I finished that one, and then I wanted to clear the palette, but I picked up a few modern books and I just couldn't get into them. So I ended up picking up Robinson Crusoe. And for some reason, at night now, because that's all I've been doing is reading at night, because I have this standing phone call with my sisters, and we do a Facebook Messenger phone call every morning at 8 o'clock, from 8 to 9. So I talk to my two sisters in Florida. So that reading time in the morning is gone. It's involved in my telephone conversation with my sisters, which has been good because they're a lot older than me. And it's fun. We laugh and we have a good time. It's a good thing. But so I only read like maybe 4 pages a night because I'm reading and I like
I understand that.
I conk out.
Yeah, I because you have a lot on your mind. You have a lot going on, and you know it's
But
hard
it-
to
but
focus on that
I'm at
for
the part-
long
yeah.
periods of time.
I'm at the part now, Richard, where the title of the chapter is that Robinson Crusoe he sees a human footprint. So he's about to meet Friday. And so that's where I am at this point now. And the
I
book
just-
is falling apart as I'm reading it. The big chunks of pages are falling out of
The last book I read, which was quite a while ago, was Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. It was
Oh,
really,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the privilege of seeing his show because I don't have cable TV. But I mean, I wish I could see his show on TV because I heard he was.
They
you know,
probably
he-
have it at the library, I bet.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. But I mean, I was fascinated by his experiences and why he killed himself. He just seemed so joyful. He would go to a country, eat their food, get right into the people and the whole culture, and you know the whole milieu. And then he committed suicide. It's like,
I
you
think
know,
he suffered from some depression because I saw him in an interview where he flirted with the
He
idea. of
did from his
suicide.
teen years.
He
and-
said, you
Yeah.
know, one of these days I might just check out and take my own life. And
But
he
he-
actually said that in an
I-
interview.
Yeah, but I was just so
So,
fascinated by reading.
yeah.
His books are good. They really are. And they're very, you know, he
I think I can get that on Libby on
Yeah, get it.
on the my library app. Oh,
Yeah.
I am listening to the Native American the origins of the first peoples of America. That one it's she had a whole chapter on the DNA sequencing and the steps involved. It was so tedious, but I was listening to it, so I was kind of phasing out every once in a while. It was really tedious, but she's talked. There's a lot of things that aren't true that were like in the 90s were true about the origins of Native Americans. They found there's a lot of information now in DNA, and there's
Have you read the poet laureate, recent poet laureate is Joy Harrejo? She was in Buffalo recently. She was really good. I mean, her poetry blew me away. It's so good.
yeah.
And the first Native American that's ever been poet laureate here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know her work, but this is more of an archaeological study of the first peoples, and it's
What have they found that contradicts what we thought we knew in the 90s?
Well,
about-
first of all, the Clovis first movement, Clovis points, their special way of chipping at the flint. They were thought to be the first peoples of. They found these Clovis points like in New
The
Mexico.
Americas? Yeah. Okay.
So, but now they found evidence in several sites, including sites in South America, that predate that by quite a bit. So where we thought that it was 13,000 years, that we had peoples here. Now it's like being pushed back to 30,000, and maybe as much as 130,000, which would break all.
Wow.
So so it would be, but there's no evidence of any people here evolving, from a subspecies.
Gotcha.
So there's still people that came.
Homo sapiens.
Yeah, the Homo sapiens, and they came from
Not hominids.
different areas, and there's also more genetic material than just the Southeast Asians. As there was a lot of conjecture that's Southeast Asians were.
Well, we all came out of Africa,
Yeah, we
and
did.
then
No, I know, but this was
And then-
this was long enough.
no, I know, but I'm getting to that, and they say the first shoot that came out of Africa went east toward Asia and the Middle East, and then up into Siberia and Russia and all that, and then some of those people probably came across
Well, there was
eventually, like
Right,
100,000 years later or whatever.
Well, it was the Siberians and Southeast Asians are that's the genetic material they're finding in these populations of the ancient DNA. But I could have really
Like the Denisovans in Siberia.
I could have really done without the chapter on this on it. I mean, she said everything from the moment she walked into the space to what she had to put on, how she had to disinfect herself.
Wow.
Every time she disinfected herself, there was another sentence. I mean, it was wildly boring, and I mean, I appreciate the fact that it's so. But I mean, there's even what are we looking at now?
Migration of humans.
Out of
Okay.
Africa and across Asia and
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah, eventually they think people left the Middle East and went into Europe all the way to Britain, like way earlier than anyone thought now.
Well,
From
there's
DNA.
that not all of the human remains have survived. They have to be in a certain situation, like in a bog. If you got something in a bog, you actually can get fabric out, But
Well, they were.
Sorry,
Did you
I
hear
have to go to
about
the
the? Did you hear about the ruins under the subway in London? They were putting in a new subway stop. They found burials that were like, I don't know, 15,000 years old or something, and they analyzed the DNA. They got some DNA out of the bones or something, and it matched the DNA of these people from like 20,000 years ago or 30,000 years ago that lived in Israel.
wow.
So
Yeah,
they
there's
think
always there's finds. They're making new finds all the time. I was watching some of these corny programs on National Geographic and the History Station about the Mayans and stuff. But they're doing some interesting work down there with the ground penetrating radar stuff. Where they don't have to even disturb the site. They can just go and look for
LiDAR.
LiDAR. Right. Very good.
Yeah.
I have no. Okay, we're running out of time here. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So the candy corn left the room, so we can't ask him for any input here.
Well, there's something I wanted to say from the beginning of the show.
Oh, then go ahead.
You must understand, Paula, that offense must be taken. It is rarely offered.
Offense must be taken.
Because it's rarely offered.
Because it's rarely offered. Well, I'm not sure exactly what that's in reference to.
Well, if a guy says, "That's a nice ass you got there,"
Oh.
he thinks he's complimenting you.
I know, but that's why I was making a statement for all women that it's not a compliment.
Except that when a woman says, "You're such a dear," she thinks that's a compliment.
When it makes you feel like a
It says,
No.
Frump.
"You're a really great guy that I'll never have sex with. No babies for you."
She doesn't say that out loud, though. No, I know.
I always
but-
hated being called cute.
But okay, so
Never
let's
wanted to hear that from a woman.
let's talk about now the fact that Goodbye. No, I can't say goodbye. I can never say goodbye. Goodbye. This has been the Common Book Show.
This has been very strange.
And we've had a lot of people on this show. I think this might be a record. Do you think, Richard? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for fixing it all up this way, my son, Tom. I'm glad that we were able to fit everybody in. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and see you again in a couple weeks, because next week is we're off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.